what if God actually sometimes allows suffering to strip us of everything that validates us outside of Him? God really wants to test, outside of this, who are you? And outside of this, will you love me? And outside of this, am I enough for you? What's so beautiful about that is that as I was stripped away from what others were using to validate me, I now found my deepest and utmost validation in Christ. Hi guys, welcome to mochunkstv and welcome to another installment of Word of the Week, where I give you guys some life gems. So over this last weekend, I attended an amazing event called Purpose Leaders. I was on the round table actually. I didn't really speak much, but I was taking in a lot of what some of the speakers, especially the special guest speaker, Sarah Owosu, had to say. So Sarah gave an amazing speech, and she told us the story of how she came into becoming a fine artist full-time. She actually went through a messy situation where her face was disfigured. So she had a medical condition that meant that her face, half of her face was paralyzed, and she was obviously very devastated as a young girl in her 20s, in university, not looking the most attractive. After experiencing people always validating her, it was very devastating for her because she's somebody that is very beautiful and has been told that she's very beautiful by people around her. So that happening meant she had to kind of hide herself, and eventually when she was brave enough to go out, people would obviously react and she would be even more devastated. And this all happened as a result of going to the dentist, getting her teeth ready for a holiday that she wanted to go for. Why that holiday was stopped, nobody knows. Only God will probably know. But I think there was a greater purpose in what she discovered about herself and how she can translate art into healing for some people. So she drew some things that were able to encourage people through their own facial paralysis and other kinds of conditions that are kind of relatable. So that was, I think, the core of it. But as I listened to her speaking, it really reminded me of, I caught a revelation, and I was like, what if God actually sometimes allows suffering to strip us of everything that validates us outside of Him? And for her, it was her beauty. She was a very beautiful girl and was extremely validated by people telling her that she was beautiful. And in that moment where that beauty was almost stripped away, she had to reach within, and that was when God was able to minister to her to start painting. Now, painting is something that she'd already loved doing, but she reached a deeper level of what the purpose of that painting was. So in that moment, a passion merged into a why, and she got purpose. And you know that's something I'm very, very passionate about. I bang on about that on this channel a lot. And it reminded me of Job in the scriptures, where he lost his riches, everything that he owned. He lost his children, he lost his wife, I believe, as well. Everything that kind of validate. Everyone knew Job as a rich man. What if God takes away that thing that everybody knows you from, because it's what validates you? And God really wants to test, outside of this, who are you? And outside of this, will you love me? And outside of this, am I enough for you? And actually reminded me of my story. You guys know I've shared my testimony on here that initially I wanted to study medicine, and through rejections later, I discovered the path that God actually wanted for me. I had to reach in and find what was the aim behind these rejections and where is the path that God actually wants for me. And I took it a bit deeper. I was like, okay, Holy Spirit, what are you trying to tell me? And it was like, for Sarah, she was extremely validated by her beauty. But for you, Mo, back then you were extremely validated by your brains or your intelligence. I was like, wait a minute. It's so true, because when I look back at my life pre-uni, I remember being the golden child of the family as a result of being so smart, as a result of being so intelligent and doing well in my exams and doing well in school in general. So I was meant to be the family doctor, the first in the family to kind of get to certain universities. I wanted to go to Cambridge as well. The first in the family to become a doctor. Like, I was meant to be that girl. And my family, both my nuclear and my extended family, were kind of, not purposefully, but were putting a lot of pressure on me to be that golden child. So you can imagine 3 rejections later, my validation was gone. The people that used to hail me for my intelligence were no longer to be found because, perhaps it's now a bit of a disappointment that she's not going exactly down the path that we wanted for her. But all in all, and I don't think that that's to spite me at all. I think that's just natural human nature. And in all, what's so beautiful about that is that as I was stripped away from what others were using to validate me, I now found my deepest and utmost validation in Christ. It's really when you're stripped down to nothing that, unfortunately, as human beings, sometimes it's sad that it takes that to get us there sometimes, that we actually start to reach in and reconnect back to our source and actually communicate with him to find out which path am I actually meant to follow on this earth, because everything is now stripped away. I'm going to completely surrender and completely rely on you because I have no other choice. But what would life be like if from the beginning, from the get-go, even when things are rosy, we are consistently and totally submitted to his will and to his ways and to his guidance? What would life be like if, even when things are rosy, we are totally submitted to this God that we serve and we actually allow him to guide and light up our way? I think those were just so many things were going through my head, that it shouldn't have to get to a place where we have to suffer for us to then redirect our focus onto God. It actually kind of reminds me of Peter walking out on the water, and we all know this story, famous story in the Bible. And we all know that it wasn't until Peter took his focus off of Jesus that he began to sink. But thank God for his grace, because it was in that moment of sinking that Peter realized that he has to keep his focus on Jesus. And thank God that Jesus went and saved him, because that's the amazing God that we serve. But we shouldn't take a moment of sinking. We shouldn't take a moment of suffering. Suffering sometimes will happen because we don't know how to act. But I do thank God for his grace, and I thank God for this revelation, because that moment I received my first rejection letter, I didn't know where life was going to go to next. But I'm so grateful that he always had a plan, and this plan was far bigger than anything that I could ask, think, or imagine. And I thank God for the grace to be obedient, because now I'm living and breathing my purpose every single day, and I couldn't be happier. And I know the future is so bright, and I hold on to him through the wind and through the waves that life may bring, even through suffering, because at the end of the day, it brings refinement. There's a scripture that I'm thinking of right now, but I can't quote it fully, that it produces perseverance. When we go through certain things, we should be delightful in those moments. I'll put it right here. But yeah, that's my word of the week. Sometimes God allows suffering to strip away everything that validates us outside of him. It brings us back to the cross. It brings us back to our Father. It refocuses our focus. Is a what? Is a wow. Until next time, guys, peace and love. Peace and chunks.